Between June 26 and August 2, 1945, representatives from France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States met in London to negotiate the framework for what would become one of the most significant trials in history, the Nuremberg Trials. Until the final moments of discussion, there was no certainty that the trial would even take place. The primary offenses to be prosecuted were crimes against peace, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. A major debate arose over whether aggressive war, an offense without a clear precedent in international law, could be prosecuted. The United States, led by Supreme Court Justice Robert H. Jackson, insisted that aggression be included, arguing that it had been the catalyst for World War II. The other allies, wary of limiting the United Nations Security Council's freedom of action, opposed defining crimes against peace too rigidly. Eventually, a compromise was reached. The tribunal also faced another major challenge: how to hold individuals accountable for state-sanctioned atrocities. Traditionally, international law had only penalized states, not individuals. The Nuremberg Charter shattered this precedent, making leaders personally responsible for war crimes. Moreover, for the first time, crimes against humanity, a term suggested by Jackson, was codified into international law, recognizing atrocities committed against a government's own citizens. On August 8, 1945, the Nuremberg Charter was officially signed, setting the stage for the historic trial. By early 1946, the tribunal in Nuremberg housed around 1,000 staff members from the 4 participating nations. The American delegation, the largest, took on the primary prosecutorial role. Justice Robert H. Jackson was appointed as the lead prosecutor for the United States. The tribunal rejected requests from the World Zionist Organization and the Polish government for a direct role in the prosecution, though Polish evidence helped shed light on the atrocities committed in Eastern Europe. The Soviets also invited prosecutors from occupied nations such as Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia, though they had limited influence on the proceedings. On October 18, 1945, the tribunal formally indicted 24 high-ranking Nazi officials. Among them were Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command and head of the Luftwaffe; Joachim von Ribbentrop, Foreign Minister; Wilhelm Keitel, head of the German High Command; Alfred Rosenberg, chief Nazi ideologue; Rudolf Hess, Hitler's deputy who mysteriously flew to Britain in 1941; Julius Streicher, propaganda mastermind and publisher of the anti-Semitic newspaper Der Stürmer, and Albert Speer, Hitler's architect and Minister of Armaments. The charges fell into 4 broad categories: crimes against peace, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and conspiracy to commit these offenses. The conspiracy charge, a novel legal approach, allowed prosecutors to hold not just military commanders, but also Nazi bureaucrats, industrialists, and propagandists accountable for their roles in sustaining the regime. The Nuremberg trials officially commenced on November 20, 1945. Each defendant pleaded not guilty, with the exception of Hess, who refused to enter a plea. Justice Jackson delivered a powerful opening statement, emphasizing that the trial was not an act of vengeance, but a necessary step to prevent future global conflicts. The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant, and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored, he declared. Over the following months, prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence, including tens of thousands of documents, witness testimonies, and harrowing film footage of Nazi concentration camps. The screening of Nazi concentration and prison camps, a compilation of liberation footage, left the courtroom in stunned silence. The British prosecution, led by Shawcross, meticulously documented Germany's pattern of treaty violations leading up to the war. The French prosecution focused on the economic plundering of occupied territories and the enslavement of millions of foreign workers. The Soviet prosecution provided chilling accounts of mass executions and the siege of Leningrad, but undermined its own case by falsely blaming the Nazis for the Katyn massacre, a Soviet atrocity. The defense, a web of lies and evasion. From March to July 1946, the defense presented its case. Many defendants insisted they were merely following orders, or that Hitler alone was responsible for Nazi crimes. Goering, in particular, relished the spotlight, attempting to portray himself as a patriot who had acted in Germany's best interest. Others, like Albert Speer, sought to distance themselves from Hitler while feigning remorse. A common defense strategy was to equate Nazi crimes with Allied actions, such as the strategic bombings of German cities. The tribunal rejected these arguments, making it clear that the scale and intent of Nazi crimes were unparalleled. The verdict, a defining moment in history. On September 30th and October 1st, 1946, the tribunal delivered its judgment. 12 were sentenced to death, including Göring, Ribbentrop, Keitel, and Rosenberg. 3 were acquitted, including former Chancellor Franz von Papen, and 7 received prison sentences, including Speer and Hess. The tribunal also ruled that the SS, Gestapo, and Nazi leadership corps were criminal organizations, making membership in these groups grounds for prosecution in later trials. However, it stopped short of convicting the German General Staff, contributing to the post-war myth that the Wehrmacht had been an apolitical institution. On October 16, 1946, 10 of the condemned were executed by hanging. Goering, fearing a humiliating end, committed suicide hours before his scheduled execution. Hess spent the rest of his life in Spandau prison and died in mysterious circumstances in 1987, while Speer received a 20-year sentence and was released in October 1966 and went on to become a best-selling author. The Nuremberg Trials set a precedent for international law, leading to the establishment of the International Criminal Court and shaping modern concepts of genocide, crimes against humanity, and individual accountability for war crimes. More than just a trial, Nuremberg was a moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the darkest chapter of human history. It marked the first time that an international tribunal held leaders accountable for state-sponsored atrocities, a principle that continues to shape global justice today.